Right, welcome to episode number 241 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast. We are recording on June the 23rd, 2024. My name is Eric, host of the show based in Southern Ontario, hunter, target shooter, ham radio operator, and computer geek. As a first responder, witnessed an over-reliance on emergency services during major events and started a small preparedness company to help people get better prepared for at least 72 hours, if not longer.
And I'm Jeff. I am based in Central Ontario. I'm a target shooter, ham radio operator, general overall handyman, and weather nerd.
And I'm Brad. I'm in Eastern Ontario, part-time amateur prepper, constantly trying to better myself.
I'm Greg. I'm a former infantryman and homesteader in Vermont. Want to help support the show? Buy some swag. We have both Canadian Prepper Podcast t-shirt and the tactical Velcro patch at prepperpodcast.ca. All the proceeds help cover our podcast costs.
And if you're enjoying the show, please take a few minutes and submit a review wherever you have found us. We want your feedback, even if it's bad. We also invite you to reach out to us and tell us about something you learned this week. You can email us at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca.
All right, so we've got some head-turning content for you in this episode. I'm going to start out with some relevant news articles. We'll update you on our personal preps since the last episode. We're going to get into the main topic. We're talking about risk assessment this evening. So we'll get into some news articles here. So I've got one from CP24. Just touches on the fact that Ontario might be Canada's new tornado capital. There's a lot of warnings recently.
Jeff, can you verify this fact?
Yeah. It used to be the prairies, but I actually touch a bit on it on my weather blurb that normally the really bad storms and tornadoes and all that stuff are usually in the deep south. Like we're talking, like Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, like those areas. And they've moved north, like way north, like into Iowa and Kansas and those places. And yeah, obviously, if you've ever looked at the map, most of Southern Ontario is actually below the borderline. And we're actually, I would say technically we're into the States and we're into that area. So yeah, I'm not surprised.
Something new for Ontario.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Just what we need.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my one, we talked about this, funny enough, a couple weeks ago with an issue that went on in Atlanta. But now Calgary suffered a catastrophic water main break on one of their main feeder lines. I believe it's about, I think somebody said it's a 5 or 5.5 foot around pipeline that brought their water in, and it burst. And they that happened on June the 5th. They're still under some restrictions. They've gone through and done, funny enough, a risk assessment on the pipeline, and I've found 5 other areas that are on the verge of letting go as well. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. A lot of our infrastructure is aging. Stuff was put in the 60s and stuff like that. So this isn't something new, and it's going to continue to be a problem. I'm confident in that. So.
Oh, I'll definitely agree with you on that.
Yeah,
I deliver lots of stuff for water main stuff and whatnot for different companies in the Ottawa area, and there's lots of times where they're replacing old stuff that's been there since the 50s, 60s, sometimes the 40s, and they're, like you said, they're just waiting for other stuff to break. They're not going to touch it until it breaks, and then they'll go and fix it.
Yep,
it's always the best. We don't need any preventative maintenance or anything.
No, don't be crazy.
We don't. It's wild.
And I mean, obviously, everybody was, which I'm fine with, but this goes back to the prepping and the preparedness of people are complaining about the water. But one thing that I think was a saving grace for them at this point was they never really had any fires to deal with, because their hydrants were dry. Like, they're telling people, like, they're turning on their taps, and instead of a nice stream, they've got a trickle, and they're like, yeah, like, what if they would have ever gotten a major fire, they would have been in a whole crap load of trouble. Because cities like that, they don't have tankers because they rely on hydrants. So they don't have tankers. They don't have a way to get extra water to a fire
station. They've got them on every corner. But that's wild to not have a tanker, though.
I would think that the Calgary and all the big cities now they would have a tanker somewhere. There's plenty of water service trucks that they can fill in a hurry and get those out as a tanker instead. And all the surrounding counties, they're all tanker based. None of them are really big sewer hydrant based. So like the volunteer firefighters.
I shouldn't say they don't have any tankers. They have 2 of them on the very outskirts of town, like towards being able to get in right to the rural areas where there are no hydrants. But here's the problem. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul. They need all those tankers. You take them from the outside agencies. Now what happens if that outside agency gets a fire? Right?
Well, to be honest, they do a tanker assist, and so if city A has no water, like Calgary, and county B is just outside and has tankers, counties E, F, and G near county B will step up and take their place. If needed, they'll be put on tanker assist standby so that they're ready to go if something happens. And those tankers, like milk truck tankers, we've all seen the milk truck tankers. That's basically what the fire tankers are. They can fill. I know the one close to me, my brother-in-law works at one not too far away from here in his town. They can fill that tanker in 3 minutes or less. So those pumps are huge. And they've got most of the fire stations have big reservoirs underneath, or very locally have a reservoir that is filled by the river or lake, whatnot, next to it. So they can hook up fast, fill those things quickly.
When I was out in Georgia doing wildland firefighting, even though, being in Georgia, you don't really have too much hand crews for your wildland wildfires and whatnot, but basically every station that was on the outskirts, because it's rural Georgia, every last one of them had a reserve underneath at each station, and if not at the station, it's around the corner. They literally have them in like a field, just a bare field. There's nothing there but a fire hydrant.
Mm-hmm.
Still assumes that everything works exactly according to plan.
Yeah, it never does in Georgia.
Which never happens.
But sounds good on paper.
Yeah,
they've tried. It's better than some places where it hasn't done anything.
True. This is true. At least the thought is there, and eventually the system will work. It just
needs the right people.
Exactly. Well, with that, shall we move into what we've done lately for preps? We'll start out with Brad.
Work as usual. Had a really good long week. Few parts ordered and received for my redneck camper. Be taken to the annual preppers meet in a few weeks from now.
Yeah.
Just waiting on a chance to put some of them in. Do some more building and whatnots inside it, and test it out in a few weeks down at the APM. Installed sorry, I got ahead of myself here. Seriously, now looking into a dual fuel generator. Thanks, Jeff, for some of those leads. I'm actually waiting on 2 responses. One that you sent me, and then another one from locally. Installed a underground power cable this weekend to my shed. So I have two dedicated circuits going out to it. One's a 240 and one's a 120. The 240 will run the shed. The 120 will run the camper. So I can plug it in permanently. No more extension cords or small lines, whatnot. A full 30 amp line, so I can run the camper just on its own, just like at a campground. Run everything in it all the time. And then I have another, if I don't need it during the wintertime, I can tap into that line with they call them dog bones. Just little adapters you can plug into an RV plug and you get a 120 out of it. Just got to remember that's a 30 amp, not a 15 amp. But yeah. And then so the conduit is in the ground for it. I just have to finish wiring it up over the next week or so, along with doing those parts installs for the redneck camper, and I'll update you next week on how I did.
Nice.
So because I don't have a whole house generator like somebody else does.
Here we go.
Had an extended power. I had an extended power outage last week. I was out for about 18 hours. So that caused me to discover a few issues with my generators. One of them was the hookup for my GenerLink. The generator itself, the hookup is different than the power cable. So I've ordered an adapter. Actually, it just came in for the generator so that I'm going to be able to hook into the GenerLink. I did some fuel rotation, topped off some propane that I used to run not my generator, but Eric's generator, because I discovered another issue with mine, my smaller one. And so we're working on getting that fixed as well. So, but I had my big backup one. So I was able to get through it without very much of a hassle.
Awesome. Yeah, same for me. Went through the fun-filled power outages there, but the Generac whole home generator did exactly what it was supposed to do. Fired back up, and we were off to the races. But learning through Jeff, he's got the same generator I do. He's got a couple kicking around, but we've got the same one, and learned that there's a little bit of a weakness with them when it comes to the battery for getting it to actually start. So we've got backup batteries en route, because there's always something to back up or double check, or one weak point in the thing. So that's it for this type of generator.
One is none, right?
You got it.
Absolutely.
You got it. So I was actually quite surprised that completely stops it from being able to start. Not good.
Well, what I found out through a little bit of digging is that clicking noise that we heard. Mm-hmm. It's a valve that blocks off the gas line. So if it's running on regular gasoline, it can't backfeed. So that's what the click is it was opening that circuit, and my battery was too weak and there wasn't enough there, and it wouldn't open the circuit to allow the propane to flow so that the generator would run.
Well, there you go. Always learning something new.
I could have gasoline in it if I wanted to. I've never run it on gasoline for the specific purpose of, I don't want to be messing around with having to drain it all the time and all that stuff. I prefer to just run it on propane. But I think, like Eric said, it was just a process of elimination thing. It's like mine wouldn't start. I brought his over. As soon as I turned it on and I heard the click, I'm like, wait a minute, that's not here on mine. So once the outage was over, everything was done. I absconded his battery. Somehow
I think the word you're looking for is stole. Yeah.
Somehow I ended up on his camera. I don't know how. I thought I spray painted it, but and as soon as I put it in,
acquisition.
Yes, tactical acquisition. I like it.
I like it. And as soon as I put that in and I turned the switch, there was the click, and I'm like, there's the answer to my question. So,
yep.
How big a battery does your generator take?
It is incredibly tiny. Oh my
goodness.
It's just basically there's just enough there because it's not an electric start. It's a manual pull start. So it's just enough power to open that circuit. It's a 12 volt, 2.5 amp hour. So it's just a small little
guy. Yep.
Little battery. But it was enough that it wouldn't run.
Yeah.
Lesson learned.
Wild. Yeah.
Yep.
Pretty much I've done roughly the same stuff. Fuel rotation. I did some vehicle maintenance. Put new hub assemblies on the truck. Oil changes. Keeping everything pretty well stocked up, little water prep and stuff like that. Other than that, it's just working on the house, getting everything situated. Towards the end of winter, I just now got my wood stove put in, so pretty happy about that. It's a lot better than running an electric all winter long. So,
Oh, very nice. All right. Well, with that, maybe we'll move into the main topic this evening. And we're getting into just general risk assessment. So we want to talk about identifying, prioritizing threats in your area, whether it be at home, if you're out and about running errands, or in a situation where things are not necessarily the way that they are now. We want to run through some pointers on what you should be looking for, maybe what you should be keeping an eye on, and just some best practices, because it's not something we always talk about, but it's definitely something that you should be practicing on a daily basis, and just kind of getting used to watching your surroundings, watching who's where, picking out things like exits and entries, and just being aware of your surroundings instead of walking around with your phone buried in your face all the time, like the majority of the population likes to do. So, Greg, being a little bit of our expert here, or subject matter expert for the evening, has kind of come up with the idea. So we'll let him kind of run with some points. The panel will, of course, jump in and ask questions along the way, and I'm sure it's going to be an interesting episode. And the live chat as well, of course, jump in where you want.
So pretty much, I had to go through and redo my entire risk assessment, moving from Southeast Georgia back up here to Northeast, being in Vermont and whatnot. I know a lot of people, when they think about preparedness and whatnot, they have a general idea, but not many people want to actually sit down and write it all out and prioritize those potential threats of going to a new area, or even being in the area that you've been in for a period of time now. So pretty much what I've got is, identify your potential threats, whether it be neighbors, or, roads even, or weather. Going from Southeast Georgia up here, we had a major flood, messed up a lot of houses. A lot of people got hurt last year, and people are still recovering from that. So, just obviously that's something to look at. That would be, if that's a common thing, that would be high up on the priorities. And then looking at your likelihood of those threats, look at previous events that have happened in your area, your surrounding areas as well, especially with weather, So a lot of times, weather's not just going to be in one area, it's going to move around. So if you see it affecting, a couple towns over, or 3, 4, 5 towns over, even over the years, chances are it's going to move your way or in the other direction. But that's one of those things, you look at what's been going on in that area and where it's all moving. After you identify the likelihood of those threats and prioritize them, identify the possible supplies to ease that event. If it's now being here would be flooding or winter with major snowstorms and stuff like that, how do I want to make that easier for myself?
So you're saying you should
talk
prepare.
about the power outages. That's right. All day, every day.
On a prepper podcast? Wow.
Wait a minute. What's going on around here? But no, like if it's wintertime, up in my area, super windy. Even just 10, 15 minutes from town, roads will be completely clear there. But up towards me, I've still got 1.5 feet of snow in my yard, So that would obviously be, depending on the time of year, obviously June or July, I'm not going to be too worried about the snow. But if it happens, I'm ready. So
it's a good point that you mentioned, just going over the history of the area you're in and figuring out what's happened in the past, because that's a great indication of what you're possibly going to be, or most likely going to be facing in the future. So yeah, taking some time and just researching where you are, or even where you're going. Like if you're planning a trip somewhere and you're leaving your primary residence and you're even just a family vacation or something, or what if it's your bug out location or somewhere you think you might go in the event of something bad happening. Researching the area and what's happened in the past will really help guide how you're going to attack that area, or how you're going to get in there, and what problems you could possibly face. So fantastic tip on that.
Yeah. So, like up in my area, when the floods were happening, I was still out in Georgia, but I had already started working on buying my piece of property out in Holland. So if you're not familiar with that area, you have Holland Pond, and all of the houses in between pretty much the main drag and Holland Pond have brooks going through their yards, or through their backyards and whatnot. And so even though I'm at a higher elevation and the floods are not likely, I've still got that major water source, because it's called Holland Pond, but it's not like a pond out in your front yard. It's not like a stocked fishing pond. If it's going to go, it's going to build up quick. But after you identify the possible supplies to ease the effects of the event that's happened in your area, identify resources in your area to acquire those supplies. Obviously, we have a lot of small family-owned businesses out here. Great Outdoors. We do have big box stores and whatnot, but the local family shops is usually where I try to hit up, whether it be a gun shop or hiking store, camping store, so on and so forth. Because at the end of the day, those are going to be the guys that, if you're affected, chances are they're going to be affected too. So you shop there, you create that relationship with those people. If something bad happens, then you have, chances are they're likely to help you out, or to have your back, or show up for you because you were loyal to them. The guy that owns the local Walmart. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I know one of my big weaknesses is if there's something sketchy happening, if there's a chance I'm going to get hurt, chances are I'm going to be there. Like, that's, if there's a flood, oh, there's somebody out there, I can get them. Watch this. Like, I don't know. Something ain't right about me. I don't know. I think
we weren't going to say it, Greg. We weren't going to say it.
Yeah. Oh no.
Since he opened that
definitely
door,
stuck on the floor. But no. Once you figure out where you can get your resources, build those relationships and whatnot, rank all of your potential threats least to most likely to happen in your area, and begin preparing for your most likely event. If sometimes the most likely event may also be the most expensive, may not be in everybody's budget. So, if you have to, start preparing for, the most affordable aspect of it, something's better than nothing. I hate to say that, because, a lot of people will get that in their head. Well, at least I'm doing something. Well, just because you're doing something doesn't mean it's effective. But in this case, that's why we have this.
Well, it's a good point, right? It's and we always say it on the show. Like, everybody rushes in to just spend a whole bunch of money sometimes on preparedness stuff once they get into the whole preparedness mindset, and you don't have to jump right into the deep end and just drop tons and tons and tons and tons of money. Just slowly build away, slowly grab a little bit here, a little bit there. Set your goals like we've been talking about. Prioritize it. Figure out what's actually going to happen in your area. and then slowly build towards the solution. You don't have to just go and put yourself into a whole bunch of debt for just the sake of saying, okay, now I've got everything and I'm ready for this thing that may or may not happen. Right?
Yeah,
just build up slowly.
Yeah. And borrow stuff. Go out, go camping with your buddies, see what they're using versus what you need to get. And what they have.
Questions.
Yeah, ask questions. What they have may not be exactly. What they're using may not be right for you. That it may require a specific technique that your muscle memory just don't like, So certain gear works for certain people. Others prefer different things. So Pierre's talking about in the live chat, advise on what and how people should prioritize risk assessment for where they live. So for me, my big thing being where I am, even though we're talking about the floods, right? So flooding isn't a big thing in my part, even though it is because I'm at a higher elevation. I've got the snow and the wind. Brad, you know roughly where I'm at. I'm sure you're familiar with how heavy the winds are out that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally just lost power. Actually, last night I was finishing up building the table, and I was like, man, that's crazy. My table saw quit working. I'm like, all right. And then 20 minutes later, it was right back on. But again, I actually don't think that's anything.
Don't tell me that you had to go around and plug it and unplug it and plug it and unplug it just to make sure that.
No. No, I didn't. So I think there's actually a problem at the transformer. I need to call the electric company and have them come out there and have somebody sent up there, which makes me feel great because that's one less thing I got to fix. But so like I said, even though I have that possible probability of having a flood, it's not one that I'm gonna be super focused on. I'll do some stuff and have it in the truck or in the barn or in the house or something like that. But my big thing is it's going to be the wind, going to be the roads, and going to be the snow during the wintertime. I actually just said about a month ago, I believe it was, I was like, I'm trying to get like Jeff. I'm trying to have 2 years worth of wood stacked up in the barn. And I actually just got a cord dropped off not long ago. I got a split. But yeah, that's my power outages up there, and the snow is my big thing. So I don't really have too many neighbors, and I do have some good ones. This past winter, I didn't have a tractor, and I just got a little Polaris 360, I think it is. Or it might be a Kawasaki. I don't even know what I got. I got a 4-wheel drive 4-wheeler with a plow on it. But that's a small quad to deal with, 3 feet of snow plowing the driveway. So I would just wake up and I'd hear a tractor outside my house, and I'm like, I don't think so, Tim. And I'd look outside, and my neighbor, who I haven't even met yet, and he's just out there plowing my driveway with his tractor, and that's
Nice.
when he introduced himself to me. And again, him doing that's actually his uncle is where I get the hay for my horse. So again, you build those relationships, and being in a small town, everybody knows everybody. My supervisor at work went to high school with my cousins. My second job, my assistant manager went to high school with my other cousins. So everybody pretty much knows my family. sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. But it depends on who you ask and what.
Depends on how much stuff you did as a kid that you don't remember.
Yep.
Hey, I was not in this area when I was a kid, so I'm covered. When I first started my job up here at the helmet factory, because I make ballistic helmets now. Some random lady just walks up to me and goes, "Are you Greg Abbott?" And I was like,
"Yeah,
maybe."
You're like, how do I answer that question?
Who are you and who do you know? Yeah.
Do I owe
Who are
you any
you?
money?
Who do you know? And do they owe you money? But no, it was definitely, it's been a good thing so far. But back on track.
I'll
I
jump
came
in
up
here
with
for a
an
second.
example.
Phil's got a good point in the live chat here. Just mentions you can stop by your local police office, RCMP detachment, etc., and ask about crime in your area and what kind of the most common types of crime. And I threw a link in the live chat as well. It's for Canada, but it's the StatsCan link that also links you to different crimes and offenses and victimization and all that kind of stuff within Canada. So if you don't want to go into the local station and chat, you can check out that website, and it gives you all the statistics as well. But can't hurt to get to know a couple of your local beat coppers, because they will know the ins and outs of your town or your city and the outlying areas as well. They'd be able to give you some pretty good insights once you get to know them about where the more rougher spots are, I guess would be the best way to put it.
Yeah. The other side of the track.
So, so actually, it's funny that you say that. The local sheriff actually lives right down the street from me. And somebody had actually called for something. I think because I just got back there. My horse was out front. My horse knocked over her water, right? She's a Mustang. She's an asshole. But
and there's the explicit button. Pierre will be proud.
Yeah. So my Mustang, I hadn't gotten her big water trough yet, so I just used a 5-gallon bucket, just so she'd have something out there, and I was constantly going out there. But I was on third shift, so I was inside asleep. Some random lady decides to literally come on my property while I'm asleep and mess with my horse. Never mind the fact that there's a 30-mile electric fence going around my property. Like, who are you? And then she brings me my horse's bucket. And she ended up calling the law on me, and I'm like, what? And the sheriff came out. Lady was crazy. She was like, this horse is spoiled. I was like, yeah, you're telling me. My bank account feels it. But when she showed up, the sheriff, it was the middle of the night, and it was about, well, not in the middle of the night. It was about 8 o'clock. I'm getting old, I guess. But it was dark out.
Yeah, that's the middle of the night. Close enough.
It was dark. But she had no lights on and just pointed her headlights in my living room. And I'm like, I don't know anybody. So my first instinct, what do y'all think I did? I'm popping out the house with a 1911.
I thought you were just going to grab your Care Bear and go out the door.
Yeah. I grabbed my Share Bear. I'm sharing freedom fries, but no. So I
Care Bear stare, and away we go.
Yeah, but I pop out the house because I didn't know who it was. No blue lights or anything. No, like I've got my 1911 out the door because I've got a light on it. And I'm like, can I help you? She's like, my name's such and such. I'm the sheriff. I was like, you have got to be kidding me. That was the dumbest thing you could do. Like, who just points headlights in somebody's living room in the middle of the night? But anyway, that's enough of my rant. But
America.
Yeah, exactly. Like, tell me you grew up in the South without telling me you grew up in the house. What'd you do when the lights came in your living room? I pointed a gun at the sheriff. What do you mean? But anyway, my example for what we're talking about here is going to be evacuation due to flooding. So if you have to evacuate your home, first thing, you want to make sure you've got documents to be able to get back. Eric, me and you were talking about this beforehand. If there's something bad to where you have to evacuate, chances are when it's cleared for you to come back in, they're still going to have roadblocks, checkpoints, and everything to make sure you're there for a legitimate reason and not just a looter coming from the next town over to, make a few bucks. So for that, documents in physical and digital copies. I think I've actually talked about this before, but obviously your driver's license or your state ID. I'd keep a digital copy. You can do it on a flash drive or in your email, because chances are you're probably going to be able to access your phone more than anything, but you can do it on your email, on your phone, and a flash drive, and your hard copies. That's everyday stuff. So driver's licenses, social security cards, land deeds to show your residency. You may move between then. You may not have your up-to-date ID. So land deeds showing exactly where you are. Each town may be blocked off, and this is actually one that I thought about today: duplicate house keys. That stuff gets lost. Yeah, a hide key underneath attached to the frame, or any outside the house, anywhere like that.
The realtors' lock boxes.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's a good one, actually.
That kind of thing, like if you've got an outside shed or a gazebo or something like that, you can put it through. Like if you put an eyelet or an eye bolt through a stud, you can lock it to that, and then you always have the combination. It's just something that everybody knows, and it's quick, easy. Into it you get, and you can get into the house, and you can tell somebody else where it is if you're out of town and hey, there's a fire happening. Like I know Jeff and Eric live close to each other. That for some reason there's a fire in Eric's area, and he's off traveling somewhere for work, and Jeff knows, hey, I'm going to go and get this important stuff of Eric's out of his house. Eric's told him the combination. Jeff doesn't need a key to lose. He just goes and pops open.
Why do I need to wait for an emergency to go and get his important stuff?
Yeah, it's just an example. Come on.
We just need to
beat me to it, Jeff. Beat me to it,
man.
And then vice versa. That Jeff's out doing something at his trailer, Eric, and hey, that there's something coming, and Jeff would be devastated if he lost this. Or you just go and get it. Send him an email. Send him a text.
Keys.
I'm going to get it. No need for keys.
Break out the 1911. You got a universal key. Back-to-back World War champ.
But just let me call up the CFO for a little ATT first. We'll see how that goes.
But no, after looking at your documents and everything for re-entry, and you can keep that stuff inside your emergency bag and whatnot. But supplies for the road, whether that be an evacuation bag or a inch bag or a good bag, whatever you want to do, whatever you want to think about, however you want to label anything. I like a one and done. I ain't trying to determine at the drop of a dime, what bag I'm going to grab. No, just give me the one bag, and I need enough basic stuff to get me to where I got to go, where I can resupply or so on and so forth, But looking at your supplies, food, water, shelter, fire, your normal stuff. And then after that, look at your hygiene, your clothing, extra clothing, medical and first aid. I don't mean just a first aid kit. If it's bad enough to where you're having to evacuate, then it's bad enough to where there's more in-depth injuries that can happen to you. So get with your.
So the medical thing there, if it's bad enough that you have to evacuate, I'll still agree with you on the medical there, that there's more to what's going on than and there's worse accidents. But now those medical resources that you might have been counting on at the hospital aren't there for you because they're dealing with all that other stuff.
Exactly. So again,
and yes, Pierre,
it just comes down to
paper.
Yeah, dude wipes. I want the mint ones. That way when the wind blows, I'm cooling down. All right. Yeah, hey, y'all laugh, but when I was out in Georgia and I was in 115-degree heat, that meant, boy, when the wind blew, because it didn't happen often, you were happy when it did. But looking on a serious note, back at that, what I was talking about, the first aid and the medical assessments and treating yourself, buddy care, buddy aid, whatever you want to call it, self-aid. Take a stop the bleed class. Even you can find anywhere. You can get certified at like your local Y half the time, in CPR and stop the bleed. And a lot of the times your fire departments, volunteer and paid, will have stop the bleed classes, at least out on this side. I don't know how y'all are. Check with your local areas, your local folks. If you pretty much
come on out to the annual preppers meet.
I was just going to say that too, that we know somebody who's coming to do just that course.
Gavin will be out for that course at the annual preppers meet. So
yeah. And then another one that to look at, maps. Maps, radios. Yeah, exactly. Paper.
Laminated
map markers. Yep, that's what I was about to say. Map markers and I can't remember what it's called, but it's just a plastic sheet that you put in. You can fold it up, keep your map markers in there. I've still got mine from when I was in the Army, and I still use it. I love it. I just pulled it out about 3 days ago, actually. So, Eric, I know you're going to be happy about this. The radios, ham radios, weather radios. Here's the thing: if you get licensed on ham radio, you're going to have a weather radio. You can always program the weather channel on there. It's really easy to. Eric, you might get upset about this, but let's all be honest. Everyone's go-to for right off the bat. It's going to be the UV5R, the Baofeng. Yup. But yeah, you can literally get everything you need right there. And then get all of your channels that you may have to.
I might have one or two within hand distance.
I think I've got Pierre. I got 4 of them myself, on one table at my house. But another thing, when you come back into town and whatnot, there may be aid, whether it be food, water, medical. If they're giving out food and water, go get that. And not just for the fact that you're not going to be replenishing your supplies. Small town. Okay. Again, everybody knows who I am. People I have no idea who they are, know who I am. If they realize, hey, I know Greg came back in. Why isn't he out here? Well, if he doesn't need the food and water, he must be set up pretty good up there.
That's a good point.
So now everybody's looking at like he doesn't need this, so he must be. That could possibly put you at a security threat.
Yep. Mm-hmm. The other side of that is, even if you are well stocked, I still agree with you. Go and get some food.
Exactly.
Talk to the people there. See what their morale is. See what everybody's doing. See how things happen for this guy. Farmer Joe down here got screwed over, but Farmer Mary over there didn't. And find out what goes on. be nosy a little bit that way to what's the word I'm looking for here? Network.
Yeah,
with all these people that, like you said, they know you, but you don't know who they are.
Yeah.
So here's a perfect chance to, hey, I'm Greg. Yeah, we know who you are. Okay, well, who are you and where do you live and how did you get through all of this? And be nosy. That's a perfect time to do it. Be nosy.
Literally, when I went to get my Vermont driver's license, I went up to the counter and there was a lady, and I handed her my Georgia driver's license and everything. And she's like, son of a gun. And I just took a deep breath and I was like, how do you know me? She was like, sweetheart, I've changed your diapers. All right, cool. That's a weird way to introduce yourself. How about give me your name first? What's up? She was like, I've known your family for decades. I was like, cool. She was like, I was there when you were born. All right. Weird flex, but all right, cool. But again, it's one of those things. Get to know the people in your area, because I may not know her, but she knows me and she knows my family. So now if I need something from the DMV, you best believe I'm calling her. I'm going to reach out to her because I don't want to sit there for 3.5 hours. So I'm going to do what I got to do. I don't care if y'all consider it cheating or not, but
use your contacts. There's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
Pierre's got it right there in the live chat that definitely people spill the beans during a disaster to find the common grounds to chat.
Yeah,
absolutely. You can find out a lot about people.
Yeah, you can figure out their mindset, whether they're, they've got a victim mentality, or if they're an asset to you. Do they need your help, or can they help you? You figure out how to play your role with them, because again, it just like life, not everybody gets the same version of me. So, but moving on to the next thing, if, like I said, that becomes a possible security issue, with them noticing you're not there. So next thing, y'all already know, security. Assess what you feel.
Remember, before we get too far into this, Canadian Prepper podcast.
Yeah, and I get that. I actually hang on, because I actually wrote things down after firearms. All right.
Did you just draw a pistol?
Okay.
Is that
no? The after firearms, it says blunt objects. Actually.
Okay.
So, but even if you can't own a firearm, some people don't have that privilege. Some people have made life decisions to where in an everyday situation they don't have that right? So do whatever you got to do to be able to create a
security force of sorts.
Exactly. I don't care if it's a ball bat, a 2x4, a log tied to a tree on a pressure switch. I don't care. Home Alone that mess. Do what you got to do, right? After,
I was just going to say a bag full of sorries.
Yeah. Hey, whatever you got to do, man. But also look at knives. If a knife is all you got, then a knife is all you got. But I would say that if you're going to rely on knife fighting for security, train. Just like a firearm, train in knife fighting. Exactly, because that's a difficult thing to perfect, to become proficient in. It's just like moving and shooting. Anybody can lay in the prone and hit a target. It's completely different to hit that target when it's moving and you're moving. Then you've got angles you have to take into consideration, so on and so forth. But on top of that,
even a martial art, you throw that out.
Exactly. Whatever you got to do. But if you're relying on a knife, also know your switches and your bleeds. And what I mean by that is know the areas you can hit and it's lights out. Sure, everybody can figure out what I mean by that, but after that, hatchets. Everybody, if you're using your pack, you're gonna have a hatchet or a camp axe or something like that, usually on the side, right? That's can be used for more than chopping wood. Hatchet, axes,
bush saw.
yeah,
Bush saw.
yeah. If you got to take a silky to somebody's arm, do what you got to do. If it's me or you, I promise you, it's going to be you. That's the mentality I'm going to have. I want to get home to my family. That's a good point.
So the word mentality that you throw in there too, that's an important thing for preparedness across the board, right? And up to and including security. You got to have that right mindset and that mentality of I'm winning this. Doesn't matter no ifs, ands, or buts. I'm winning this and I'm getting through it.
Because you might be in that
situation if things have fallen apart, right?
Yeah, both of us may go, but I promise you, if it's going to be both of us, I'm gonna do everything I can to make sure your ass goes first.
Hey,
but
it's all about mindset.
Yeah,
exactly. Don't have that victim mentality, in anything, whether it be a disaster, a fight, everyday life. I told a friend of mine a couple weeks ago, whenever you walk in a room, walk in like you own it.
Yep.
And if you don't want to walk in like you own it, walk in like you don't give a damn who does. Just have that mentality, confident. But after security, and this is in no particular order, like I said, do what is going to be best for you. That's kind of what this is about. Figure out what's going to be your risk, where you need to start. But vehicles, obviously, number one on your vehicle, gas, fuel,
tires,
obviously, tires,
brakes,
just general overall maintenance. Make sure the thing runs.
Exactly. Make sure make sure you can jump in it and turn the key and take off and get where you got to go. But oil, tire plugs, standard tools. And then, again, piggybacking off the floods that we were talking about, I put in here an inflatable raft, kayak, and not necessarily in your vehicle, but just have access to it.
Life preserver. Life jacket.
Yeah.
Throw that in your
exactly.
vehicle.
Or just, I personally want to get a little John boat. I love a flat bottom boat. They'll fit dang anywhere. But another one is recovery.
We have a really good comment in the live chat from Pierre that we have to mention, because
absolutely,
if we don't, it just says definitely don't get a Ford if you plan on it starting and getting you somewhere. Just for charity.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about, Pierre? Fords are first on race day. The fact that it's
found
because
on
they were
road
left
dead,
there from last year.
repaired daily, flimsy old rebuilt Dodge.
Effer only runs downhill.
And if
I was just about to say it.
If you spell it backwards, it spells driver returns on foot.
Just for Terry. You can join Team Terry, I guess, Greg.
So when
Terry's got a buddy now.
So when I'm talking about recovery, I mean like a winch or tow straps or whatever you got, to get you. Again, if it's snowing, you might end up in a ditch. Believe me, I know. I don't want to talk about
it. Been there, done that. Got the t-shirt.
I don't want to talk about it.
No.
But another thing that I want to throw out real quick, because this is coming up on the end of my notes here, is 2 acronyms. I've talked about it actually the very first time I think I was on with y'all, and that's METTC. METTC and PACE. So METTC, for folks that haven't been with us before, heard that episode is it's a decision-making tool that we use in the Army. It can be applied to anything. It's mission, enemy, terrain, troops available, time, and civil consideration. Not just because you have those, doesn't mean that they're going to be applicable in everything. Civil consideration may not even be, again, not applicable. But I think I use this same scenario too. Walmart, going to Walmart. All right. Well, mission is I got to pick this up. All right. I know what I got to do. Enemy. All right. What time is it? I got rush hour traffic. I'm going to be in this part of town. Terrain. I'm going to take the highway first off. Troops available. It might be me. I might take the dog with me. I don't know. Time. What time is it? How much time is it going to take me to get there? And then the civil consideration. All right. Well, obviously in this situation, that's not going to be applicable. So you can apply it with literally anything. So, and then pace. That's your action. So if you have to evacuate, right? Or if you've got floods, let's not even talk about the evacuation. Let's look at just a flooding. If it's getting to where it's getting a little wet, that's going to be your primary. Probably just going to want to hang out at the house, be with the family, just sit tight, wait out the storm, right? And then you've got your alternate. That's going to be your plan B. And then your contingency, that's going to be plan C. All right, well, I may have to leave the house. I may have to, run up here to a couple towns over, run to my dad's house and run to my buddy's house or my mom's house, whatever, and then your emergency. That's where, all right, I'm getting in the truck, or if it's flooding, it may be so bad that I got to get in the boat. The truck ain't going nowhere. I'm getting in a John boat. I'm taking the boat down the highway.
That's what you get for driving a Ford.
Damn it, Terry. But some of the things I've talked about, that's just, that's a good place to start. Some of the resources I'm gonna give out real quick for charts and assessments and everything. Chris over at City Prepping. I don't have a link or anything for him, but again, you can find him on YouTube. You can Google it and whatnot. He actually has, stuff. Yeah, he's a lot more computer oriented than I am. He'll probably Control Alt Delete when I'll just shoot it. It is what it is. Everybody's got their thing. But
I know that Terry. I know that Terry, the other Ford owner on the panel, he follows Chris quite a bit.
Yeah, I like him. He's very knowledgeable. But again,
I find him very factual and not sensational.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. So Chris over at City Prepping's one, and then one that I actually found today, and that's leadingagil.org. They actually specialize. They're out in Illinois. That's what the IL is for. But they specialize in risk assessments and risk management for like businesses or homes as a homeowner, so on and so forth. So if it's a little overwhelming, you don't have to use these guys, but someone like that, where they have a lot of layouts on their website and everything, good place to start. Maybe ask for some help. And then as much as I hate to, I'm going to go ahead and say it, FEMA.gov, because they do have resources on their website. They have charts. They have places to where you can link up with your local people, kind of, again, create that network. Obviously, that's going to probably be a little bit, I haven't looked, but I doubt that would be anything for me because I live in the middle of nowhere. So just ups and downs, right? But check them out. And again, FEMA's not perfect. Don't ever trust the government. I don't care what nobody says. But they've got resources, and it's a good foundation. It's a good place to start, if nothing else. And then when we were talking about your ham radio channels earlier, know your repeaters and everything throughout your route. Know how it's going to affect you. Have those presets, get on repeaterbook.com. You can pull up your area anywhere in the country, and you're going to be able to get those repeaters, access to whatever, and be able to put them in your radio on your route, and so on and so forth. You can even go as far as printing it out. I'm going to be hiking the Appalachian Trail at some point in time. So I printed all the repeaters along the Appalachian Trail, printed that off, and put them in my pack. That way
Laminated?
I haven't laminated them yet, but I'm going to, yes. They're actually still packed away, so I'm not too worried about it. They're at least safe. I think they're actually in my safe.
That's a safe place for them to be.
It's right next to my can opener.
Perfect.
But have hard copies. I can't stress that enough. If you're gonna, when it comes to paperwork, any type of information whatsoever, hard copies, books, documentation, hard copies. Have hard copies and digital. That way, if something gets lost or damaged, whatever, you've got that backup. And like I said, if you want to put it in your email, got your phone, all right, cool. Here, this is where I'm at. This is who I am, so on and so forth. Email is always going to be right there on your phone.
Take pictures with your phone. You don't have to access anything except the gallery, the picture storage on your device. Like I have a second phone. This used to be my regular phone. SIM card's out of it. It's in my new one. I still have it. I can still access Wi-Fi stuff. I can still take 1,000 pictures on this phone and have it with me.
Yeah.
And if my main phone goes dead, I can easily slip the SIM into this card, and I'm still back up and running. And I still got all the pictures on it.
Yeah.
Good point.
But yeah, like I said, books, hard copies, print out your stuff, have your backups. We've said it 1,000,001 times. Well, let's make it 1,000,002. 2 is 1, 1 is none. Use your gear, practice with it. If you've never struck a ferro rod before in your life and you're waiting until it's raining out, chances are you're probably going to get cold. It's a bad time to learn. You don't want to be learning how your gear works when you're trying to use it and when you need it. So, figure out what you want to use, figure out figure out your strong points, your weak points. Like I said, my weak point, if it's sketchy, chances are I'm going to get pretty excited. That's just how I am. If I can possibly get hurt helping somebody, I guess I'm just going to get hurt. So it is what it is, man. Exactly.
At least
nobody has a good story or a really exciting story when they were like, man, this looked really sketchy. I kept going though. I just ignored the hell out of it. So.
I don't know. Some of the best stories start out with, this is pretty sketchy, but
yeah, exactly.
Did it anyways.
I'm being paid to be here, so I went ahead and did it.
I just went and did it.
It comes back to that old saying. Sometimes I can't remember who said it to me, but they said the closer I am to death, the more alive I feel. I get that. If that's you, if you're going to walk with death, at least be ready. Be prepared with it. So that's all I got, y'all.
Awesome. Any final comments from the panel?
I just got a couple of quick little things because we're running out of time. But we've talked a lot about stuff that applies to urban areas, or sorry, to rural areas. So I just want to touch a bit on the urban stuff. You're in a city, you're in a bit of a larger city. As much as Greg says, know your neighbors, that's impossible out there. But know your hotspots. Let's be honest. The flavor of the day seems to be let's protest about something. Protest because my fingernails aren't as long as I want them, or protest because I seen somebody wearing the wrong color jeans or whatever.
Somebody
know where those people or maybe there's a square and they don't like the name of it, so they're going to protest that. And you happen to be somewhere near that. Be aware of that. Be aware of what could come out of those protests in terms of being able to get in or out of where you live. So have a secondary route to be able to get around or get home if those protests get a little out of hand. That's kind of a big thing for me. We're seeing it more and more often, and it's just have a secondary plan to be able to get you home, because the way things are going, eventually I think at some point you're going to get caught in one. So
that's a good point. They're popping up all over the place right now.
I'm not sure if any that's happened out this way, but I could also be because I don't watch the news. It's good.
Universities, colleges, city halls. For me, it's Parliament Hill, downtown Ottawa. They got Rideau Street, you got Wellington, you got Bank Street and Elgin. Those are all main arteries coming in and out of downtown. And I drive them so many times in a regular vehicle and my flatbed for work that I know different routes, different ways in and out. I Google stuff all the time to know where I'm going to and how to get in and out of it. And if I went one way in, I'm going the same way out, so especially if I don't know the area. But I've been driving around these parts for so long that I know where northeast, southwest is and how to get home, where home is, those kinds of things. But just be aware of where you are.
Oh, awesome. Well, with that, maybe we'll move into the podcast challenge. So for this episode, just be prepared with your possible threats and what's kind of around you, and just start watching the news and getting into kind of the history of things that have happened around you. And if you haven't already come up with a plan, well, we're 241 episodes in. You probably should have one by now.
Might be a good idea.
Yeah. Upcoming events, we've got the annual Preppers Meet coming up, so get ready for that. A good chunk of the panelists are going to be there, so come on out and learn some stuff.
5 days away, I think it is.
I think so, yeah. It's coming up quick.
Yeah.
It's coming up quick.
Where's it at?
So it's just outside of Alliston, Ontario. So
Brad, where's that at?
Let's say from you to Alliston, about 9 hours.
That's a haul.
That's a haul.
It's a haul.
It's a haul.
It runs Thursday to Sunday, if that makes it worthwhile. And some of us will be there. Just saying.
Yep.
Jeff, you've got a weather blurb. Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, before that, I just want to comment on a thing Denny's put in the live chat there. He says,
sure.
He's been talking about, as I talked about the protests and all that, with people around work, so many people have no clue on what can cause a pinch point in an emergency. Had a plan, revamped the plan, and still saying WTF at times. So it's not, and that's actually a really good point that Denny makes. It's not a one and done thing. Don't make your plan, throw it in a box, and expect that 5 years later, when something happens, the plan's going to work. It's always a moving plan.
I was going to say a fluid thing that.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Thank you. Yeah.
Make it a living document. You're constantly revisiting it, constantly updating it, constantly changing it. And adding and subtracting from it depending on what the scenarios in your local area are.
The other part that I just thought of this too, that construction. You have one way out. Road construction happens. Well, there's a bottleneck right there. There's a pinch point.
Yep.
What are your 5 different ways around that construction alone on every major route that you got to go home on?
That's a great point.
And to work, to and from your house.
Yep.
How do you get around them?
Good point.
Yeah. And another thing is your family. Just because you know it doesn't mean your wife, your husband, your daughter, your son, doesn't mean they're going to know it. You know, work with them, let them know, okay, well, you know, I can't reach dad. This is what he said to do in case this happens. Trust your gut, you know, wait this amount of time. If nothing happens, all right, rendezvous at this point. You know, if it's getting bad, you know, make sure your family is aware of what to do, you know, get them involved with it. You know, they may think you're crazy sometimes, but, you know, I'd rather, you know, my family think I'm crazy and be safe than think I'm, you know, oh, everything's fine. No, half the time it's not all right. It's not fine. Bad things happen every day. You know, you can have a plan. Chances are your plan's going to go sideways. Improvise, adapt, and overcome. But have that plan because that's a base. You're going to know, all right, well, here's what I want to do. All right, well, I can't do that. Your brain's automatically just going to start going when you're hit with that, when you practice and you're familiar with it. Put yourself in stressful situations too. You know, have a EDRI. EDRI is a drill that we use in the Army. It's a readiness drill. Right? Talk to your spouse, your kids, whatever. Send a text with one word. Lets them know, all right, wherever you're at, I need you to meet me at our rendezvous point. Let's see how fast your response time is.
Interesting.
Without going to jail.
Or breaking any other laws.
Exactly.
When I was younger, my
lawyer Brad
did,
here. Perfect.
When I was younger, living out where we did in the middle of nowhere, like there's one sign in the town. It says the name of the town on both sides, and there's no population count. That's how small it is.
Nice.
Out in the middle of nowhere.
Population count changes as you roll in and roll out.
Sure.
Yeah.
There are many times where, you know, out at night, especially in the wintertime, this is way before cell phones were really popular, that if I was leaving somebody's place, I'd call home. 1 o'clock in the morning. Mom, I'm leaving Eric's place. I'm on the way home. I'm taking the normal route home. And we'd already figured out what that route was. If I'm not home in an hour, she knows something's wrong. She knows what route to take backwards to find me.
Yeah.
Do the same with your kids. Do the same with your wife. Your parents know exactly what route you're going to take to get to their place and what route you're going to take to, like vice versa. Your friends and family, you know what route they're going to normally take. Well, if you're waiting for them at their house, that's your rendezvous point, and they don't show up, you know where to go. You know the route backwards to follow.
Yeah,
Find
exactly.
them. Right.
Give a grace period of 10, 15 minutes. And after that, it's like, all right. And
in the wintertime, do a half an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
You could be getting stuck. You could be behind a snowplow. There's nothing really wrong. You're just behind a snowplow.
Yeah, or a tractor. Tractors going down the road are extremely common where I'm at. Sometimes I can't go around them. You know,
same here.
I just got to ride it out. So,
yep. Like my youngest doesn't drive, but in the last year and a half, maybe a year and a half, about when we're driving somewhere, I'll ask her to look up from her phone if she's on it, or coloring book, or a school book she's reading, or whatnot, and at random times, where are we? She looks up and I don't know. Well, we're here at this stop sign. If you go left, you get to that town. If you go right, you get to this place. If you keep going straight and then take the next road on the right, you get to this guy's place. Oh, okay, now I know. And we keep driving. Do it again, do it again, do it again. All the time. Get her used to it right away. That if you need to get to like my parents' place, her grandparents' place, okay, you go here, you go here, you go here, even just walking, but you know where you're going. You know what the road name is. That's where I need to get to. Okay.
It's a great drill.
I'm a fan of them.
All right, I'll move on to the weather blurb. I'll be quick about it.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned the last time when we were looking at the potential of the first named storm, tropical storm of the season, we did get that the other day. Tropical Depression Alberto formed in the Gulf. Outside of that, for that storm, it was just a lot of rain. No reports of any other damage. A tropical depression is at the bottom of the list. You have a tropical depression, a tropical storm, then you get into the hurricanes and you start at 1 and you go up to Cat 5. So winds in a tropical depression are maybe like 30 to 40 miles an hour. So it's not a big thing. They're just massive rain producers is what they are. So I know Eric brought it up in his news thing, but as the official start to summer approaches, many people across the Midwest of the United States and even into Ontario are still recovering from a record number of destructive spring tornadoes. According to the National Weather Service, April and May of 2024 had the second most tornadoes on record, only behind 2011, which was just astronomical. Storm Prediction Center, again, same place, says that there's been 930 confirmed tornadoes in the first 5 months of 2024. And that's just for the U.S., obviously.
930?
930
Wow.
so far this year. Yeah, in the United States. This is the fourth most active start to a year on record. And it's near the 90th percentile for the last 25-year period, which obviously is going to tell you that's way above average. Even areas that rarely see tornadoes are getting them. Greg's in Vermont. He was under a tornado warning this afternoon. New England, they were under a tornado warning as well. Those places don't normally see that kind of weather. So it just goes to show you times are changing. Weather patterns are always changing. It's not always that it's climate change. It's just weather patterns. You can go back a long time in history and you'll see how the weather patterns move around up and down, but it is what it is. In terms of tropical development, not seeing anything in the next 7 days. So I don't think we're going to be into any kind of hurricane development or even tropical storms at this point. But still, for the next 3 days, the Midwest is still going to be under enhanced risks of severe weather for the next 3 days. So that number of spring tornadoes could potentially go up. So, he mentioned it. Sorry, Greg mentioned it in his thing. If you don't have a weather radio, and I know I've said it numerous times, if you don't have a weather radio, shame on you. You should, especially if you're in an area that is active for that kind of weather. I had somebody ask me the other day. I made a comment about a tornado warning that came at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and their comment was, "Well, why is it so late?" It's not late. The vast majority of tornadoes happen in late in the afternoon and evenings when you've had massive daytime heating on the ground. The air starts to cool down. The ground is hot. You get a massive, everybody knows the warm air rises. So you get that real heavy uplift and updraft, and that's what causes your tornadoes. So having them in the mid-afternoon to early evening is not uncommon. So
we need to resend the memo clearly. 5 o'clock's dinner time. We don't want that interrupted.
No, but it's going to happen.
I ain't got
Jeff,
time
you were saying 930 tornadoes in 5 months is an average of 186 per month, which turns out to an average of 6.2 every day.
That, and when you break it down like that, that's just mind blowing.
Boggles the mind.
That The only other thing, obviously, if you've been anywhere around the east side of the country, Eastern Canada, Eastern US, we just finished our first excessive heat dome of the season. Temperatures were pretty hot here. We were into the mid 30s. Humidexes were approaching the 40s. And this one was a fairly long one. It went on for, I think the first heat warning came out early Monday morning and the last one expired this afternoon. So we were almost a week into that heat. So, and more will come. We're not even into July and August yet. So,
yeah.
Yep.
It's not snow. I'll take it.
I'd rather have the snow than the heat.
There's times.
Yeah. 29
Well, you can go out west. Just just out by the upsloping hills by Calgary and actually down into, I believe it was Montana. They got snow. They got snow in the lower in the higher elevations. They got snow like last week. They got snow.
Crazy. That's crazy. All right. Well, with that, I will bring episode number 241 of the Canadian Prepper Podcast to an end. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or really your favorite podcast app. Pretty sure we're on pretty much all of them by now. Please do submit a review wherever you do listen. It does help other people find us and, of course, encourages the algorithm.
And we do record these shows live on YouTube and Facebook. If you want an early peek at the shows, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Canadian Prepper Podcast, and click the notifications tab. That gives you an alert when we will be going live. If you want to reach me, you can send an email to feedback@prepperpodcast.ca, or I am frequently on our Discord. If you're not on the Discord and you're in an area of bad weather, get on there. I post a lot of stuff. So.
Anybody wants to reach out, it's batbradcpp@gmail.com. I am on the Discord every so often, not as much as I would like to, and going to be at the Preppers meet in 25 days.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a lot less than 25 days.
Yeah. You can reach me on the Discord app every now and then. I'm not on there as much as I'd like as well. Or you can reach me at crossrifleranch@gmail.com.
And you can check out rapidsurvival.com and get me there on the live chat. You can also email me at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca. And I'll be at the annual Preppers meet as well. It's coming up here shortly. I'm not going to argue with you guys about the number of days. I'll just say shortly. So thanks for joining us this evening. Until next time, be prepared, stay safe.
And keep learning.